So welcome everyone to another night of Art 2730 Integrated Arts. We are meeting with another subject matter expert, and this is Professor Marlo Castillo, who is the Arts Integration Resource Teacher for Prince George's County Public Schools. Just a little bit about her. Professor Castillo worked as a public elementary school teacher for 16 years. During her time as a classroom teacher, she taught in 2 states, 3 school districts, and at 4 grade levels. So she has run the gamut. And for those of you, depending upon no matter what you want to do your arts integration lesson on, she has experience in your subject area. Now, her experience also includes 6 years as a 3rd grade teacher at a Kennedy Center Changing Education Through the Arts CETA Partnership School. Professor Castillo has been working in the field of arts integration both in and out of the classroom for 15 years. And upon leaving the classroom, she spent 2 years writing elementary school social studies curriculum and 4 years as a program manager for CETA. Again, that's the Kennedy Center's Changing Education Through the Arts. She currently serves as the Arts Integration Resource Teacher for Prince George's County Public Schools in Maryland. So everyone, please welcome me in joining Professor Marlo Castillo. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Marlo.
Thank you so much, Professor Miller. Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing this evening? All right, all right. Thank you again to Austin, Sumaya, and now is it Derika? Pronounce for me.
You got it right.
Which one? I said
Derika.
Great. And Blair, for all having your cameras on for this participatory session we'll have this evening. So I'm very excited to be with you on this lovely spring evening, and we're going to really dive deeply into the world of arts integration this evening. So let's take a look at what we're going to do this evening. So we're going to start off by reflecting on a definition for arts integration together. This is a definition that I believe you've encountered already in your studies in this class. And but we'll just take a little bit of time to talk more about it. But the biggest chunk of our time this evening will actually be diving into an arts integration lesson. So you will become the learners in arts integration, and that's where that participation comes in. You will engage just as students would. So that's when we'll really need your cameras on, your mics ready to open up, your participation through the chat, through your voice, through your body, and through your facial expression, which we'll get all into that during this evening. And then we'll take some time to reflect on what we did as learners within the context of that definition for arts integration, and within the context of what that feels like and looks like in the classroom. Any questions or comments before we dive in together? Those can come through the chat, or since we're a nice small group, you're welcome to just open your mic as well. Everybody good to move on? All right, super. So before we dive into that definition of arts integration, we're going to step back a little bit further and just talk about the different ways that the arts are taught in schools in general. Okay, so first of all, we have the arts as curriculum. So this is what you would remember as your visual arts teacher or your music teacher engaging the students in their art form. So they are teaching objectives in the art form. That is their main job as the creative arts teacher, is to meet the standards, the art standards objectives in their content, their area of study. So that usually happens in the arts classroom, whether that's music, that's visual arts. In elementary schools, very rarely will you find dance and drama and media arts, but that will sometimes happen. And then as we get into middle and high school, that becomes more and more common. Then we have what we refer to as arts enhanced curriculum. An arts enhanced curriculum is where a non-arts classroom teacher is engaging their students through the arts, but not teaching them about the art form. So here the arts become a vehicle to teach the objectives in the other content area. So a very simple example of this is a kindergarten teacher teaching their students the ABC song. So we all know the tune to the ABC song. We can sing it forwards. Some of you, I'll bet, can even sing it backwards. And if you can, that's the next bonus. You know, Sumaya got the first bonus for the evening on identifying Aladdin in the Disney song. The second bonus will come at the end of the evening if you can sing the alphabet backwards for us. But my point is, the ABC song is taught to memorize the sequence of letters in the alphabet. A kindergarten teacher is not asking students to match pitch with them while they're singing the ABCs. Those kindergartners could be singing all over the place and we're fine. We just want to know that those ABCs are in order. Not teaching tempo, not teaching any skills in music, but we're using that tune as that mnemonic device to help us memorize the sequence of the letters in the alphabet. So that is a prime example of what we call arts enhanced curriculum. Also very important for students learning through the arts. What we're going to focus on this evening is arts integrated curriculum. So here is where the arts and another content area are taught together, and we meet objectives in both the art form and the other content area. They support each other. We understand, we deepen our understanding of the art form by learning in the other content area, and vice versa. We deepen our understanding of the other content area by learning in the art form, because there's a natural connection between the two that helps to deepen student understanding. And that's what we'll talk more about today. But finally, another way that the arts are taught in schools is through professional arts experiences. So this is back in the day when we used to be able to go on field trips and go into public art spaces for a concert. And luckily those things are starting to come back now. And we're hoping in Prince George's County Public Schools, we might be able to go on field trips in the fall. Certainly our area is so arts rich, with amazing arts organizations and museums surrounding us, that we want our students to take advantage of seeing the work of professional artists, whether it's in the National Gallery of Art or watching American Ballet Theater at the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, or going to Imagination Stage for a theatrical performance designed for children. All of these are the different ways that the arts are taught in schools. They are all valid and important and necessary for students to get a well-rounded education that includes the arts. And again, this evening, we are going to focus on the arts integrated curriculum. So here is a definition for arts integration that comes to us from the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, who also gave us the graphic in the previous slide, I should say, as well. And raise your hand either with a reaction or live in person if this definition looks familiar to you. All right, Professor Miller. Austin, okay, Ariel, wonderful, Monet, Blair, all right, great. So whether you've seen this definition before or you're seeing it for the first time this evening, I would like you to take a moment and read this definition to yourself. And as you're reading the definition, just notice what jumps out to you, what really catches your attention or sparks your interest as you read this definition that was actually created over 3 decades of research by the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, where they went out to schools and saw how arts integration was happening in classrooms and in school buildings around the country. So take a moment to reread this definition. And let's give it just another second for everybody to reflect, Simone, and then we'll get your reflection first.
Thank you.
Sure.
Simone actually is in the classroom, so I can see why she's excited.
Fantastic. Oh, wonderful colleague.
Great.
I appreciate that. So arts integration is an approach to teaching in which students construct and demonstrate understanding. Students engage in a creative process which connects an art form and another subject area and meets evolving objectives in both. So what is jumping out at you? Simone, you want to start us off?
Sure. I love the fact that students engage in a creative process which connects the art form and another subject area. Just the creative process to me is very important. As kids get, now we have the iPads and we have so many screen time that children really don't get to be creative. And creativity, I think, is very, very important for kids.
Thank you so much for that, Simone. And you notice that the creative process is right in the center of this definition. That's not by mistake. The creative process is indeed at the heart, at the core of this definition for arts integration. We're not really doing arts integration if we're not engaging students in the creative process, if we're not giving them the opportunity to create an original product. Thank you for that, Simone. Other reflections, what else jumps out to you? What else stands out or resonates with you in this definition this evening? Yes, Sumaya.
So what stood out to me were actually 2 words in here. So arts integration is an approach to teaching in which students conduct and demonstrate understanding through an art form. So the 2 words understanding and connect I think are very very important because sometimes with some students, they may have a hard time understanding certain subjects, especially when it comes to math and science. And as children get older and they're they're moving up a grade and they're moving into those subjects, sometimes it gets a little bit harder. So when you use arts or arts integration and you combine it together, they're able to connect to it a little bit better. And in some ways maybe excel in that other art subject that they had, I mean, not art subject, non-art subject that they had trouble before
Exactly.
doing.
Sumaya, you really hit the nail on the head there, as they say. We're talking about a way to reach all types of learners. The arts are so well situated to meet multiple modalities of learning. And I can't tell you how many times I've been working with teachers and, for example, teaching a complex math concept through the art form of dance. And the teachers will say, oh my gosh, if I had had this approach to teaching when I was in high school, I would have passed trigonometry, right? Exactly. All students learn differently. And arts integration allows for our diverse learners to connect and understand contents in a variety of ways. Thank you for bringing that up. Wonderful. Any last reflections before we move on? Yes, Derica.
The phrase evolving, like the bottom part,
Mhm.
evolving objects kind of stuck out to me because it kind of like says everything is evolving, especially art, but art does stay the same at some point. But art is evolving with like everyday objects, like someone said before, a tablet, a computer, like paintbrushes, even they're going digital. So that kind of stuck out to me.
That's
Just a little
right.
bit.
Yes, absolutely. And, this was a part of the definition that came about from this research of seeing the work in the classroom. And when it was successful, the objectives in the art form evolved. It grew every single time. So it wasn't always doing the same thing in the art form, but it got more complex or more difficult. And the students are always challenged, just like we are, like you say, with evolving technologies. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so let's dive in. Let's keep this definition as our kind of in the background of our minds. And as we experience an arts integration lesson together this evening, just notice yourself as a learner, and we'll come back to this definition and reflect on what parts of this definition were going on as we engaged in the lesson. So again, thank you to those of you, and I think it's about 50-50 now who have your cameras on and ready to fully participate. And if we can get some more cameras on, you'll see in a moment that movement and expression that the camera is necessary for will become vital. Right, so we're going to dive in, and I'm going to lead this as if you were my 4th or 5th grade class. You don't have to behave like 4th and 5th graders, okay? I think I'd appreciate it if you don't, but but behave as yourself, but as a learner, and know that I'm using language the same way that I would with 4th or 5th graders. So I know you're not 4th or 5th graders, but I just want to also model that language that I would use with them. Make sense? Everybody okay with that?
All good. And I'd like to add, as you know, everyone is going to be doing a mock teaching practicum. So you will be using language that corresponds to the grade level that you plan to teach. And definitely listen up, ask any questions that you have for tonight, and participate in the lecture so you can get a feel for what an arts integration lesson is like. So I'm really excited, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to do tonight.
All right, let's dive in. And you can go ahead and take me off spotlight, Professor Miller, so we can all see each other and engage together. Of course, in the Zoom world, we're not actually physically together, but let's try to mimic that as much as possible. Okay, so we are going to start off today, 4th and 5th graders, using our acting tools. We're going to use the elements of drama or acting tools. So an actor is someone who pretends to be someone or something else. And they do that by making creative choices with 5 tools. These are 5 tools that, well, 3 tools and 2 skills, actually, that you have with you right now, that all of us have with us all day, every day. There are other types of tools that actors use, but I'm going to focus on these 5 that we have with us every day. If you can unmute or put in the chat a couple of ideas of what you think an actor may use to become someone or something else that you have with you right now and you have with you all day, every day. What do you think one of these tools might be? I see Simone's ready again. Go for it, Simone.
Your voice.
Very good. We're going to use our voice. So let's do that together so we can remember. Here I have the sign for the letter V for voice, and we're going to put it right over here by our voice box, and we're going to say voice. Let's do that. Do that after me. Ready? My turn, then your turn. Voice. You go.
Voice.
Great job. Yes, one of our tools is going to be our voice. Oh, I see facial expressions. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and we're going to call that expression today. And it will mostly be in our face as we continue as actors today. So we're going to call that expression. Okay, so I'm going to do it again, then you'll repeat me again. Ready? It's expression. Go. Fantastic. And then Derica says that we also use our body. Yes, an actor uses their body to become someone or something else, and it helps to put it in our body to help us to remember. So again, you'll repeat after me. Body. Go ahead. And if I were standing, we'd go all the way to our toes. Blair says emotions. I love that, emotions, Blair. And yes, we're going to express our emotions through our expression. Absolutely. Very good. Let's see how you did. Whoops. Okay. I went a little early. Sorry. I forgot my presentation. So yes, we're going to use those actors, tools, and skills. 2 skills that actors use, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, are also our concentration, which is focusing on one thing at a time, and our cooperation, which is working together as an ensemble. So we're going to be using our actors, tools, and skills a little bit later on. But the first thing we're going to do today is actually dive into the elements of visual arts. Okay, we're going to be looking at a work of art. And while we're looking at this work of art, we want you to be keeping these elements of visual art in mind. So please take a moment and look through these elements of visual art. And some of these might be very familiar to you. And some of these might be a little bit foreign. You might not be quite sure what we're talking about. So let's take a look. I'm sure some are familiar. Can you go ahead and put in the chat or open your mic to see it, to let us know which of these elements you feel like you have a very, very clear understanding of? Which of these elements are you familiar with already?
Color.
Color, fantastic. I see 2 for color. Monet and Simone say color. Now, if you look on this chart here, the colors are divided in 2 different groups. We have red, orange, and yellow on one side, and green, blue, and purple on the other. Does anyone have an idea of why those 2 sets of colors were separated that way? Lola, do you have an idea?
Yes, I believe because primary and secondary colors, right?
Close, very, very close. Primary and secondary colors are included here, but they're mixed on either side, and I see it in the chat. Coming through the chat, I also saw Austin's hand go up. Austin, did you want to talk about it a little bit?
I was just gonna say what was in the chat.
Yeah, tell us. Go ahead.
It's divided in warm and cool colors.
That's right. It's divided into warm and cool colors. And I love how Simone has also connected that to mood. Yes, warm colors are associated with the red, orange, and yellow, and cool is associated with that blue, purple, and green color palette, which you can kind of see around my room, so you can kind of tell what kind of person I am by the colors in my room behind me. And yes, an artist often uses color to either warm colors or cool colors to give us the sense of mood. Well done, very good. Now, so we talked a lot about one element here that you're very familiar with. Are there any elements here that are unfamiliar, that you're not sure about, or you might have some questions about? I see something coming through the chat. Space. Yes, Jamie, that's often the one that gets the most questions here. Is there someone who would like to open their mic and talk a little bit about how a visual artist uses space when they're creating a work of art?
Yes. So space is usually the area in between objects. So on the PowerPoint it says space is comprised of positive and negative space. So okay, so if I'm not mistaken, positive space is the space that is inside the object, and negative space is the space that's surrounding that object.
It could be that way. It could be. We also sometimes have hollow objects, right? So like here's an object right here, right? So it has positive and negative space. If this object were in my work of art, the green would be the positive space. And then you see that space in the middle, that would be the negative space. We can also exemplify that using our body, right? So like if I put my hand on my hip there, and if you'd like to try that with me, sometimes putting things in our bodies helps us to understand and remember even better. So if we trace this shape we've made with our elbow here, here's our positive space. And then if we put our hand through that shape that it's making, that triangle, that's our negative space here, right? So Professor Miller also says, think of it as the filled or empty space. Oh, you had a dance quiz. I like that. Monet, did you want to add something to that? I saw you on mute for a moment.
Oh yeah, I was going to say the same thing Professor said about the fill and the empty.
Fantastic. So it looks like Professor Miller, sorry, somebody's taking your job.
That's good because we want them to learn the visual arts. In this, well, actually, the art forms. In this class, it's relatively interesting. About half are graphic designers and half want to be teachers.
That's right. I remember you told me that. That's fantastic. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to talk about those graphic designers offline later, right, Professor Miller? I have some jobs ready, waiting. Super. Okay, so we've taken a look at these elements of visual art. We have line, straight lines, curved lines. Think about why an artist might choose a straight line versus a curved line or combine them differently. Shapes, we could have geometric shapes with straight lines. We can have organic shapes with curved or irregular sides. We already talked about our warm and cool colors and why an artist might choose to use one or the other. Form, how does an artist use 3 dimensions, put things in the foreground or background? Why might they do that? Texture, how does an artist give you that sense of how what they put on perhaps a 2-dimensional flat piece of paper? How do they give it a sense of feeling? Rough, smooth, fuzzy, or gleaming or sharp. Value, why would an artist choose some light tones versus some dark tones? How do all of these elements draw your attention as a viewer? How does the artist use these elements to guide you to the meaning of what they want to convey in their artwork? All right. So on the next slide, we are going to take a moment to look at a work of art. And the first thing I'd like you to do is just look. Okay? Don't think about meaning. Don't think about anything else, but just let your eyes wander over this work of art and notice details. Notice details in the context of these elements of art. How is the artist using these elements? Then we'll get more into what you think about this painting or what this painting makes you think of. But let's start. We're going to start with 30 seconds of just looking, not responding at all, but just looking. Thumbs up if you're ready to look closely. Kimberly's ready. Anybody else? Is it just me and Kim? Okay, okay, everybody's ready now. Okay, here we go. Take 30 seconds and let your eyes wander over this painting. Now that you've had some time to look closely at this painting, in the chat, share what you see in terms of those elements of art, right? Sorry, let me go back. So again, think about line, shape, color, etc. What do you see that the artist used in this painting? can be as detailed in that description as you can, but please don't be tempted to try to place meaning in it yet. Just what do you see? What colors do you see? What types of lines do you see? Forms. Okay, Simone says lines. Simone, what kinds of lines do you see? What are the lines that are standing out to you? Derica says white. The color of white really stands out. Blair sees the gray. Jamie also mentions color. Jamie, what in terms of color are you noticing? We have the white and the gray that stand out to some people. We get some red. That splash of red really stands out now, doesn't it? Okay, and notice I'm not using the nouns that you're using yet. Simone notices some crooked lines. Simone, can you unmute and tell us, help us notice with you where those crooked lines are?
Sorry, I went straight into my Jamaican upbringing of crooked lines. Sorry, I meant to say like broken lines where there's a splat of tomato on the wall.
Yep, and we see these lines going out, but then we see this
broken right there, right?
Yeah, does everybody see that? I don't know about you, but I don't think I noticed that until Simone pointed it out. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Oh, and that rocky texture, Austin. Yes. And you're already starting to get into that, some meaning. That rocky like texture here in the background is starting to it makes you think of concrete. You can almost feel it, right? We see some yellow color that's very prominent as well. Let me see. The artist used color white, gray, yellow, curved lines, form. Interesting. Sorry, I'm having trouble seeing who's making this comment here. Samaya.
Oh, that's
yes.
Maya.
Can you tell us more about what you see in terms of form and value? Those are two elements we hadn't seen mentioned before. Go ahead.
Yes. So for the value, I see tints and tones of the gray suits that the men are wearing. So one of them is wearing kind of like a tinted gray. Beside him is like a deeper, like a tone of a tone of gray, and then in the back, like with the third officer, it's more like a tone that's middle. And then as for the girl, she's wearing like a bright white color, and her shoes are in an off-white like tone kind of color. And as for form, so each of the characters' arm have a 3D form. So you can see so you can see some clothes, you can see their hands, their movements, and even the tomato is all rounded. And I also see the concrete wall. It also shows form because you can see that edge that's separating like the big chunk of the line that's separating like where the tomato is, and then the top and floor of the concrete.
Yep.
That's it.
Yes, this artist really used form to give that sense of 3D and put the context of where each of these objects are. Thank you for that detailed explanation. Now, let's dive a little more deeply. I hear you all starting to talk a bit about the meaning. I heard Samaya just mention officers. And so from what the artist has given us, from what the artist has created with the visual arts elements, what does that make you think of? What do you think when you look at this painting? You can open your mic, or you can go ahead and put that in the chat. Okay, Jamie's going right in around segregation. Okay.
I believe it's the Ruby Bridges movie. I think
All right, talk a little bit more about that, Monet. What makes you say that?
Because in the Ruby Bridges movie, I think she was the only African American going to school with the Caucasian people, and they didn't like it, so they had a riot about it.
All right, so we're not only talking about segregation here, but in this moment, this is actually a moment of integration, where this young girl is coming into a white school. And I see other comments coming through the chat: injustice, civil rights, hatred. Let's dive into that word, Derica. Can you talk a little bit more about what you see in this painting that makes you think of hatred?
What I see is like, I believe someone already pointed out, what the tomatoes in the background and like the cracked wall. And then over on the top left, there's the KKK
Yep.
carved out on the side of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see like these four white men gathered around this Black girl, like trying to protect her from anything like solid, like anything like hard that could hit her, like actually can injure her.
So I'm gonna push you a little bit further just to ask, what makes you say these are for, first of all, you said men. What makes you say they're men? Let's just get into some real detail there. I don't see their faces, so I'm curious, what makes you say they're men?
The reason why I say they're men is because, of course, they are wearing suits. They have more of a muscular build than a female does.
Okay.
Like they're quite tall.
Mm-hmm. And then you also said white men. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
The reason why I say white men is because I'm also looking at like their hands, because that's what shows it. Of course, they're not completely white. Some are like tanned.
Yeah.
Not tanned like black, but
yeah,
basically white.
So Derica, you just made me look more closely at one area that I've never looked closely at before. And I'm thinking of this figure in the foreground on the right. Look at his two hands. Is anybody else seeing what I'm seeing here?
Like two different colors.
Yes. Yes.
Right?
Two-tone.
Isn't that interesting? I wonder, so that brings us to our next question, actually. I wonder why the artist would make these two different skin tones on the same character. What the artist was trying to convey with that choice in value or color in this artwork. So our next question around this artwork is, what does this painting make you wonder? What questions do you have? Is this a message of unity? Interesting. You want to talk a little bit more about that, Jamie?
Well, I was thinking about what you said with one hand being lighter than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that was a message about, white and Black people being unified. I guess.
Yeah, and kind of a hidden message, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Other questions that come to mind looking at this painting?
It could have also been lighting.
Yeah, right. It's there. It could be cloud cover versus. Oh, that also makes me think of what if it's like a photo flash from a newspaper that made his left hand look so much lighter, perhaps. Yep. Great. What else? Other wonderings or questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
I kind of am curious as to why the excuse me, the artist decide to put the girl in all white, like in an all white dress, shoes, socks, bow.
Mm-hmm. Why did the artist put
I mean, I have
Ruby
an
Bridges?
idea.
We have determined that is the main character in this painting, right? Why did he put her in all white? So Jamie is thinking that it could be to stand out. Certainly, it gives huge contrast here, right? That is the only place where we find that color in this painting. Yes, Kimberly.
To demonstrate innocence.
It could also
She's a
be
child.
symbolic in that way.
So innocent.
Simone says to keep the focus on her. All of those things are absolutely valid. Yeah. Good thinking. Any last wonderings or questions about this artwork, Derica?
I got one more question.
Yeah.
I can't really read it, but there's something written down at the bottom on the ground.
Yes, so that is the artist, Norman Rockwell, who was a very prolific artist of the time, did create this illustration to recognize this event, this historic event, as Ruby Bridges integrated this all white school with the National Guard protecting her, the US Marshals that we see there. You will find this painting other places where there is another word very visible. I will not use that version of this painting with students, with children. You can see a little bit of the word at the top here, but the N word is scrawled across the top of this painting in the original as well. Again, bringing out that theme of hatred that you all brought up so astutely earlier. Okay. But just to give you a little more context to this painting, but I would not use that with students. Okay, on that note, now we're going to dive even more deeply into this painting. So what you're going to do next is you're going to step inside this painting. You're going to choose a person or object in this painting, and you're going to take on that perspective. So you're going to pretend to jump into the spot of that object or person in the painting. Okay? So it can be anything that you've mentioned or other things or people that you've noticed. Could be one of the characters that you've talked about, or you can go ahead and personify one of the objects that we've noticed or talked about. And you're going to take on the point of view of that person or object.
I was just thinking about how Ruby must have felt.
Okay,
And
hold
then
on
you
to that
mentioned
thought.
Okay.
Hold on to it. You see, Simone's always one step ahead of us here. Absolutely. Yes. So yeah, you might want to choose a character or object that you wonder what they might be thinking or feeling. So you're going to choose a piece. You could choose the tomato, you could choose the ruler, you could choose the wall. You could even infer someone who's outside of this scene, maybe on the other side of this painting or the other side of this wall, and imagine what they're thinking or feeling, taking on their point of view. If you have something to write with and write on, or right there on your device, just go ahead and jot down the person or object whose perspective you're going to take, whose point of view you're going to start looking from. Professor Miller's got hers. All right. Thumbs up or give a reaction when you've got yours. When you've chosen the person or object whose point of view you wish to explore. All right, Jamie's got it. Blair's got it.
Samaya has hers. It's lost in the trees.
Camouflaged, all right. Camouflage reaction. Simone, you've decided, yes? Okay.
Yeah, sure. But would Professor Miller like to go first?
But nobody's sharing yet.
Okay.
Nobody's sharing yet. This is just step one. It's on your own now. Monet's got it. Austin's got it. Darius, have you made a choice yet? Derica's got it. Great. How about you, Lola?
Yes.
You got it? Okay. And Kimberly, you're good to go? Okay, great. Now that everyone has chosen their person or object whose point of view you're going to take on, here's our next step. Now is when we're going to really dive into these elements of drama, these acting tools. Remember when you identified these earlier? All right, what's the one tool on this list that we did not talk about? See if you remember from the beginning of our lesson. Yeah, Monet.
I believe imagination.
Yep, imagination. Okay, so imagination is making that thing up in your head. So let's remember that one together. Get your mind ready. My turn, then your turn. Imagination, your turn. Great. So we remembered, we'll do it together this time. We're going to start here with voice, imagination, and we use our body and our expression. Right? Okay. So, and then I spoke about those acting skills of cooperation and concentration as well. And we are going to focus right now on using our body and expression. We're building up for you to use body and expression to help you become that character or object that you've chosen from the painting, to step into their shoes. Now, that might be a very, very heavy step in. It is a heavy emotional event in history. So we're going to start off with on the light side here, so that so that we can build our acting skills a little bit before we dive into the heavier and more serious moment that was depicted in that painting. Okay, so we're gonna do this. Anybody familiar with Whose Line Is It Anyway? The improv show that's on some network TV. I don't know what it is. Okay, so let's identify some characters. Whose line is it anyway style. So let's get an occupation in the chat. So, oh, a teacher, it's too easy. Sounds great. Okay, let's get an age in the chat. $34, okay. And let's get a gender. Okay, so we're going to be a 34-year-old male teacher, all right? A 34-year-old male teacher, and we're gonna put this 34-year-old male teacher in their first day in the classroom teaching kindergarten, okay? All right, so think about how this 34-year-old male teacher is going to hold their body. Think about their posture and what kind of expression they might have on their face the first day they are teaching 5-year-old children, okay? So I'm gonna add, when I say go, you're gonna turn off your cameras and you're going to create this sculpture with your body and your face of this 34-year-old male teacher on their first day teaching kindergarten. And then when I say action, you're going to turn your camera on and be frozen in the body shape and facial expression of that 34-year-old male teacher teaching kindergarten for the very first time. Everybody got it? You got your imagination going? Turn off your camera, take 30 seconds to create that character with your body and expression. And when I say go, when I say places, you're going to turn your camera on. And when I say action, you're going to be frozen with the body and expression of this 34-year-old male teacher teaching kindergarten for the first time. Places, cameras on. And action. Let's see him. Frozen. Take a look around. And relax your bodies. Curtain. What did you notice about the different ways that people used their bodies and expression to create this character? What did you notice?
Everybody was happy.
Everybody was happy? Did anybody notice anyone who might not have been 100% happy?
Yeah. Professor Miller.
Professor Miller.
Professor
I
Miller
also
does not
saw-
know how to get into that character. Thank you,
I also
Derica.
saw I think it was Austin and Jamie had a little bit of a different take on it. Yes. Can you show us your body and expression again? Everybody take a look at Austin and Jamie's for a second. Oh,
I
let
am
me-
going to spotlight so we can see
Great.
better.
And I'll stop sharing my screen too. Okay, so what's going on here? Not necessarily happy. We have a stressful moment. Yes, and I will
Yeah.
attest.
Yeah.
It's a stressful moment. That first day with 5-year-olds, absolutely. Yes, Jamie, can we see yours again for a second too? Can we highlight Jamie for a second? Spotlight Jamie for a second too. Uh-oh, did she freeze on us?
I'm not sure. I don't see her. Oh, wait, she's dark.
I think we lost her.
Yeah, maybe.
That's
Okay.
bad. Yeah, she also had this exasperated expression on. Also very accurate. Okay, let's do one more. Let's have a contrasting character here. Okay, so let's start off with age. So we just did a 34-year-old. Let's have another age, a different age in the chat. Extreme, far away from 34. Let's have a different age. 40 is
40
not
is too
far away
close.
from 34. It is appropriate to date 34 and 40. So let's have an age that it is not appropriate for a 34-year-old to date. Okay, 15. Here we go. That's better. All right. So we've got a 15-year-old. Okay, so they may not have an occupation, but so let's give them, let's have in the chat what their clique is, right? Are they a jock, a hippie, a band kid, skater? What is their clique, this 15-year-old?
Fortnite.
Okay.
There's not a lot of kids playing these days.
Put it in the chat so everybody can remember what it is. All right. And you know what? We don't even need a gender here. This crosses all genders. So, because I'm not as, well, we're fine. So, 15-year-old Fortnite enthusiast, and they are, they just got asked to prom. Okay, let's the 15-year-old Fortnite junkie enthusiast just got asked to prom. So get that imagination going. What is their body and expression going to look like? Turn your cameras off and rehearse. Practice that body and expression. When I say places, you'll turn your camera back on. And when I say action, you will turn into that 15-year-old Fortnite enthusiast who has just been asked to prom. Places, cameras on. And action, let's see it. All right, and give yourselves a big hand there. What was the general expression, the most common expression you saw among your classmates here? how did that 15-year-old feel about getting asked to prom, according to most of you? They were surprised, maybe even shocked and a little bit scared, skeptical. That's a good word. Yep.
Like, oh no, I have to leave the game to go to the
That's right. That's right. Wait a second. People in person, I don't know about that. Right, you got it. Great job. All right, actors, give yourselves a big round of applause. Now that you've warmed up your acting tools, you know how to change your body and your expression to become someone else. We're going to apply that to our historical event in our painting that we were exploring earlier. So now I know we're making a pretty big emotional shift here. So take a moment, a little cleansing breath. And let's get back into I want to make sure I can see you all. Give me just a second here. Oops, that didn't do it. There we go. All right. So now you're going to use those acting skills to step inside this painting. You're going to imagine yourself as that person or object and really think about their point of view. Think about their perspective. What can that person or object, you can personify an object here, what can they perceive or feel? What might they see? What might they be hearing? What might they be feeling both tactily and emotionally, really? What might that person or object know or believe? And what might that person or object care about? So take about, let's say, 2 minutes to jot down some notes about your character, the person or object that you wrote down earlier from this painting, the point of view you are taking on, and jot down some notes about what you imagine they perceive, feel, know about, believe, and what they care about. Take about 2 minutes. And if you want to turn your cameras off while you're jotting down your notes, that's absolutely appropriate. Thirty seconds. Okay, if you can finish writing that thought and bring your attention back to the group in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, now that you've started to think about your character's point of view or perspective, you're going to go ahead and start giving your character voice. Take a moment to write from their perspective using these sentence starters. I am, I feel, I think or believe, and I hope. Take 2 minutes to write from that character's perspective. And now, let's layer on our acting tools. So again, when I say go, you're going to turn off your camera and you're going to practice embodying using the body and expression of your character, your person, or your object. And again, when I say places, you'll turn your camera back on, and action, you will become that character. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing again, because when we see these characters, we'll again take a look around at all of our classmates and try to predict whose point of view they're taking on from this painting. I'll leave the painting up while you're creating your character with your body and expression, but then I'll take it down when it's time to share. So take 30 seconds, turn your camera off, rehearse your character with body and expression. All right, places, cameras on. And action. Let's see these characters. relax your bodies. I'm seeing energy in these characters that's about at a level, I'm going to say 4 or 5. Can you infuse whatever expression your character has to an even higher level? This might be in your face. This might be in the tension of your body. But let's move that energy and that expression from a level 4. Let's get it up to at least a level 8. Okay. So that we can really see clearly that point of view. I see some of you revising already. That's fantastic. Ready? And action. Monet, let's see it in your face. Oh, Jamie, I see much stronger with your body as well. Okay, take a look around and see if you see a character that you can identify who they are in that painting.
Mhm.
Okay, relax your bodies. What characters did you notice among your classmates?
Marlo.
What's that? Say again, Monet.
One of the four men, the marshals.
Okay, who was being one of the marshals?
Jamie.
Jamie, is that accurate? Yeah, we could clearly see that very strong stance and that replication of those gestures and that posture. Great job, Jamie. Yes, absolutely. Who else? Now, some people I'm predicting, or I'm inferring that you might have been taking on a character that was even outside of the picture, or taking on some expression that is not necessarily shown in the painting. Who else do you think you saw your classmates portraying? So I'm very interested in Monet's. Monet, can we see you again? Can we spotlight Monet for a second? Can we see Monet's again?
So I was like this, and it was just.
Okay, you don't need to say anything. Just go ahead and keep it really nice and strong for about 30 seconds.
And put the face back on too.
Yeah. Who do you think Monet is portraying here?
One of the people looking.
Okay, it seems like she's someone outside of that painting. Is that accurate, Monet?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your character?
Just basically standing up for Ruby and, showing my expression of being determined about how she's feeling and how I could feel the same way that she's feeling.
Fantastic. Very imaginative there. You've taken a perspective that was even outside of the painting that you can imagine an onlooker might have taken. All right, here's the final piece. Now we're going to put that all together. You're going to take your body and expression and you're going to add your voice. Okay, you're going to add your voice to it. You're just going to practice right now taking that I am, I feel, I believe, your poem that you wrote with the sentence starters. And you're going to put that into your body using the voice that you imagine for your character. Again, let's take some time to rehearse that. So you're going to rehearse the body, expression, and voice of your character using your imagination and the script that you wrote for yourself. Does anyone have a question? Thank you, Professor Miller, and I'll bring that slide back up also. Okay, so let's just take 2 minutes to rehearse. We're going to put all of those skills together. Imagination, voice. Oh, sorry, we'll go to the vibe. Voice, imagination, body, and expression. Take 2 minutes to rehearse, and you can do that with cameras off. All right, don't worry if it has reached your perfection stage or not. We're going to dive in. When I say places, you're going to turn on your camera and your mic. That's right. We're going to hear everybody at the same time this time. So when I say places, you'll turn on your camera and your mic. And when I say action, you'll be in the body and expression of your character, and you'll use your voice to express the point of view of that character. All right. Places. Okay, I see cameras on. Now we need to unmute your mics as well. And it's going to be cacophony, and that's fine. Action.
I hope
Never you. Lord, make him safe. Please.
get back.
I believe in you. I hope you safe.
And
hope my parents are okay.
Get
broken by the hurt they just
I'm scared.
even sooner.
I feel lonely. I think
thinking has something
I'm
to do
believing
with
I am
everything.
not safe. And I hope my parents are okay.
All right, and thank you, especially Monet and Austin went back to their positions, and we could tell that their monologue, we'll call it a monologue, their poem had ended. Give yourselves a big round of applause. Now I'd love to hear one or two of these straight out so we can actually hear the perspective that you took on. Do we have one or two volunteers to be spotlighted and we can hear your poem and see your character really come to life this time? Who would like to volunteer to share their entire character? All right, Jamie, let's spotlight Jamie here and let's hear this perspective. Step inside one of the marshals in this scene.
You want me to do his voice too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yep, get that part out.
My man voice isn't too good, but
you got it. You've
okay.
got this. You so have this. But get yourself in that ready position. That'll help.
Okay.
Right? That'll definitely help.
All right. I'm the person that will lead the way. I am proud to be the person to lead the way, to make sure Ruby make it into this school. safely. And I hope the people that have hatred in their heart know that she's going to be going to school daily. And I'm going to be the person to lead the way.
Amazing. Fantastic.
Awesome.
What a beautiful expression of what thinking about those marshals and the determination that it must have taken. They were probably among a community that didn't agree with what they were doing, right? So yes, beautifully said, beautifully said. Do we have time for one more?
Sure we do.
Is there one more person, a different character that we can dive into this evening? Great job, Jamie. Thanks for volunteering.
So what are some other characters you all took on in this exercise?
So Simone, I'm wondering if you're just lubricating your voice to get ready to perform or what's going on here.
I guess I can try it.
Yes, you can. Yes, you
Okay.
can.
Yes, and since you are currently in the classroom and you said you were going to practice on your little ones, we're going to make you practice right now.
Okay. All right.
All right.
So
just dive right in. Go ahead and get in your body. Ready, action.
I'm so scared. I'm feeling very lonely. And I believe that I'm not safe. And I hope my parents are okay and not too worried about me, but I'm so scared. That was how Ruby would feel, I guess.
Yes, yes. You made that so clear as to who the character was. Really, really great job. Super. Yes. And then finally, let's just hear some of the other characters that you chose. I'm very interested in, well, I'm interested in all the characters. So either unmute and let us know what character you were portraying or throw it in the chat. Let's hear. We had a Ruby Bridges. We had one of the U.S. Marshals. Who else did we have represented? Okay, Darius, you also picked one of the marshals. Austin, I'm very curious as to who you chose. Oh, Sumaya chose the wall. Brilliant. Yeah, was anyone the tomato? That's the question. Professor Miller was the tomato. All right. Super. All right. Well, thank you all for engaging in this work together this evening. Thank you all for your capacity in performance and in sharing and also in supporting each other. We already did this. So here are some things to reflect on. I know we're coming quickly to the end of our time together, but let's take a few moments to reflect on what this was like for you as a learner. Think about how you felt as you were engaging in this arts integration lesson. What did you learn in an art form? What did you learn in another subject area? And what benefits could you see for students in the classroom? Let's go ahead and unmute to talk about this because we're running short on time. I think that'll be a little quicker way to get some reflections out.
And you don't have to necessarily respond to all four, but if we can at least get one response to each of the prompts, that would be really helpful in thinking about planning an arts integration lesson.
Yeah. Darius, I see you.
The benefit that I see for students from this exercise, it helps students engage, especially like students if they're like shy, helps them engage.
Absolutely. Engagement is a key objective of integrating the arts. Thank you. What else? Jamie?
I learned that I am a visual learner. I have to see things. You cannot tell me about it. I can't read about it. I have to see it.
So did you get that opportunity in this lesson?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. We are so entrenched in teaching through verbal modalities, verbal and auditory modalities. We say it, we expect students to hear it, we want them to say things back to us. We have to start bringing in these multiple modalities, visual, kinesthetic, these intrapersonal moments and interpersonal moments as well, because we have all different types of learners in front of us. Thank you for that, Jamie. What else? Yeah, Blair.
A benefit I see is making the learning fun for the students.
Yeah, okay. You know, you could have read a paragraph about this event from a history book. But how much fun is that, right? We know from research, engaging emotion helps the learning stick. It makes the learning more memorable. It helps the students take ownership of their learning, and they're going to remember this lesson for the rest of their lives, really. Thank you, Blair. Any other last thoughts?
For me, it goes back to the enhancing of the creativity. Like, what benefits do you see for students to be creative without judgment?
That's right. Oh, thank you for saying without judgment, right? When we are engaging in arts integration, we did have objectives. If you notice, I did push you towards making your products of higher quality, but you didn't feel that judgment, right? There's no right or wrong answer. You were taking on a perspective and you were able to define that for yourself. Great. And Sumaya, did you have one last thought to share?
Yes. So, it's the fourth question, what benefits do you see for students? They learn how to, work together with themselves and with the teacher, but they also have experience enough to where they can experiment and become comfortable within themselves to basically act on what you're teaching them.
Yep, absolutely. Arts integration stems from a belief that learning is active, learning is a social act. So, and like Simone was saying right at the top of our session together this evening, our students are so immersed in this screen and just interacting with a screen so much that giving them opportunities like this helps them to build those social skills and their own self-expression. Thank you. So that first activity that when we dove into the Norman Rockwell painting of the Ruby Bridges event comes from Harvard Project Zero's artful thinking routines. And Professor Miller will have this entire presentation, and you can explore their whole website. They're really based on enhancing critical and creative thinking skills, and they've developed a number of thinking routines around visual art as well as music to engage students in higher level thinking skills. We go back to this definition for arts integration. Okay, were you able to construct and demonstrate understanding through an art form? Did you engage in a creative process? You created something original. Did you connect an art form and another content area? And did you build your skills in those areas? So I kind of use this definition when I'm planning an arts integration lesson as sort of a checklist. Okay, am I making sure we're demonstrating and constructing understanding through that art form? Are we engaging in the creative process? Are we making that connection? And are we meeting evolving objectives? PGCPS holds these goals for arts integration throughout our county when we're using it pre-K through 12th grade. And I'm going through this very, very quickly because I'm aware we're over time. And here is also a list of other strategies and resources that you can refer to when planning your arts integration lessons for this class as well. And finally, please reach out as you're developing your lesson plan and in your practicum. If you have any questions or want to run some ideas by me, this is what I do all day, every day, and I'd be more than happy to do it with you as well. So again, thank you for your
wait, Professor Castillo, before you leave. So one thing I know, half of you want to be teachers. Take down her contact information. So as you are starting out with your pre-service teacher stint, or even before you get there, continue to use her as a resource. So another thing, we know for our practicum, we are using one non-arts discipline. In the context of tonight's lecture, what was the subject of the lecture? Was it math? Was it science? What was it?
What was our non-arts content?
History.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And
Yeah.
we know that we are going to be using only one arts content in our discipline, in our lesson that we're planning. How many did Professor Castillo roll into this one lesson? Because she's an expert like that. And as a reminder, these are the arts disciplines we study: visual arts, poetry, music, musical theater, film, literature, dance, and theater in terms of stage plays. So which ones did she use? Okay, yeah.
Theater.
Yep. Okay, and somebody also said visual arts as well. What else did she use in her lesson?
Those were the two. Those were the two we had clear objectives in.
Yes, but she also rolled in two more, and those were literature and poetry. Again, she didn't teach us necessarily about literature and poetry, but those were incorporated as well. So we're going to teach the arts discipline, teach the non-arts discipline. You're using one of each, and that is your objective for this practicum.
Super.
So
before we say goodbye, does anyone have any questions or comments?
And were your questions that you had answered tonight? And if not, this is your time.
All right. Well, when those questions do pop up, or you need any more support, again, please feel free to reach out and contact me. Thank you so much for having me again, Professor Miller. And did
pleasure.
you want some of your folks to stay on for a moment?
Yeah, so for everyone, thanks for your time and attention. Next week is an asynchronous week, but also for the students in my section, you are expected to log on for a one-on-one with me about your lesson plan. We're going to discuss that in our meetings. For those of you who are not in my section, check in with your professor. They're also doing one-on-ones, but I don't know in what way they're doing them or when exactly they're doing them. And finally, my graphic design students, if you can just hang on the line for just a little bit more, but past that, everyone else, I will see you all next week. And past that, I look forward to seeing everyone's smiling faces when we do our practicum in the next couple of weeks. So good night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Great meeting you all. Great working with
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.